The Milwaukee Brewers are getting set to take on the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm Bill Scott, and Bill Pollock, the sports director from the Missouri Radio Network, joins us for a preview of the three-game series. Well, both teams coming off of victories. The Brewers needed 17 innings yesterday and went through 8 pitchers to do so. They'll be a little short-handed. Mike Fiers actually pitching on an extra day's rest instead of his last time around. He pitched on short rest, so he'll start against the Cardinals tonight. Matt Garza was the scheduled starter, but he had to be used for 5 innings yesterday. Cardinals coming off a win themselves. They've won 6 of their last 7, Bill, and right now it's kind of the Cardinals division, and the Cubs and the Pirates, who are starting to play good baseball, they're just trying to stay close, but St. Louis playing good baseball right now.
Yeah, they are. And, a lot of it, I think, can be traced back to their starting pitching. And, really, Bill, what team can lose their ace and still have a 33-17 record through their first 50 games? Just a remarkable run, and they're doing it with 3 solid pitchers. Michael Wacha, who's got 7 wins and an ERA that's just under 2.3. Carlos Martinez, who just picked up his 5th win yesterday. His ERA is just a tad over 3. And John Lackey, a veteran who's come in and has really picked up slack. I mean, I think a lot of people thought he was just going to be a guy that could eat up some innings, but this guy's putting together a great season. One of their leaders among strikeouts and an ERA under 3. So those 3 guys right now on that staff are really carrying this team. And fortunately for you guys, you'll only get to see one of them, and that's Lackey in the final game of the series.
Yeah, you know what? From the outside looking in, when I look at the St. Louis Cardinals, I still see, even though a team that has great pitching, and it's that way year in and year out. I mean, surprised me with something there. This is just a good baseball team with a good pitching outfit, and they seem to continue to bring. I mean, if one guy goes down, they bring another one up from the minors, and he steps right in. But I look at St. Louis's lineup, and while they're not blowing people out of the water, there is a veteran existence on that team, and it's different players on a night-in, night-out basis that come through in the clutch.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's one of the remarkable things that, as I've had an opportunity to follow this team now, I mean, really closely for the last 7 years, is they seem to find ways for guys to make, and sometimes it's not even just a big hit. For example, the other night, they're playing a game. Peter Borges is on third base. They're playing Arizona. Bases are loaded. There's a ground ball to short. They throw home, and they get Borges out at the plate. Now they go to turn a double play, but Borges slides into the catcher, throws off his timing just a bit. He throws the ball in the right field, and the Cardinals win the game off of an error. I mean, I don't know if a lot of teams, if it was intentional or they go in, they play hard, and they're going to make you earn every victory. And they come up with heads-up plays like that. They come up with key hits. There are 3 players, though, in that lineup that they can't afford to lose. They lost Matt Adams for the year, who had surgery on a right quad injury that he sustained trying to run out a double. But you've got Matt Carpenter, their third baseman, who's hitting .318, 8 home runs and 37 RBIs. Johnny Peralta, who hit a 2-run homer yesterday in the win over the Dodgers, drove in all 3 of their runs. He's hitting .310. He's got 8 homers and 30 RBIs. And then you've got Matt Holliday, who has reached base safely in all 44 games that he's been in this year. He's hitting .318, and he's driven in 24. Those 3 guys are the core. And that's what they base their offense around. And then they look for guys like Yadier Molina to come up with a key hit, now and then. There might be a guy like Randall Grichuk, a right fielder, to come up with a key play. They've got Mark Reynolds now, who they brought in, who was going to be a bench player. He was a starter for his entire career. Now he's getting the starts at first base. So they look for guys to kind of fill in around there and make plays. But those 3 guys that I mentioned, Carpenter, Peralta, and Holliday, those are the big 3. If those guys stay healthy this whole year, I don't see how they can lose this division.
Mark Reynolds, you mentioned he was with the Brewers last season. He's hitting .250 right now. Tell me about him. And, every time I watch the Cardinals game, in Reynolds, if he's in the lineup or coming off the bench to pinch hit, he seems to be coming through with some big hits.
Yeah, he has. And, I think he's been it's funny to say that a career can be rejuvenated. I mean, here's a guy that accepted a role as a bench player coming in and had no guarantees of what type of playing time he would get. Plays a lot of third base, and of course, that's where Matt Carpenter plays. So this is a guy that just came in and said, you know what, I like the atmosphere, I like what this team is building, and he's tried to contribute in any way that he can. Now, he still has his nights where he strikes out 3 times, but he'll also come up with the big hit when it's needed. This is one of those acquisitions that could turn out to be really big for this team, especially now that Matt Adams is gone for the year. That was a guy that, kind of provided some pop in the middle of that order for the Cardinals, and pretty decent first baseman for his size. So now you can move Reynolds into that spot, and that's a big key pickup for them. So, he's going to have his strikeouts, but he's also going to come up with big hits. And as long as they've got other guys that are around him who can get on base, find ways to manufacture runs and use their speed, then you can have a guy like Reynolds in your lineup.
Cardinals won't have to face Chris Davis, who has caught fire of late. He suffered an injury Saturday night in his first at bat while hitting. He tore the meniscus in his knee and will undergo surgery today. The Brewers will get Jonathan Lucroy back after a 4-game rehab stint at Single A Brevard County. He will play against the Cardinals for the first time since April 20th. Tonight, the Cardinals 4-2 against the Brewers this season. They'll send left-hander Jaime Garcia to the mound, and he is 6-3 in 12 starts against the Brewers. Tell me about Garcia and what he has meant to the Cardinals this year.
Yeah, he came back. This will be his 3rd start of the year. He had the same injury and the same type of surgery that Chris Carpenter had a couple of years ago that ended his career. And he's just been filled with injuries, shoulder issues. So he missed, in fact, an entire year. So his first outing was kind of coming in and replacing Adam Wainwright. Now, you're not going to replace Wainwright, but they're looking for a guy that can fill that role. And they gave Jaime Garcia a lot of money a couple of years ago. So he's a guy who can get in trouble with walks in his first start of the year, like I said, which was about a year ago, or a year to the date of his injury. He walked 5. In his last start, he didn't walk any. So, he's kind of an up and down pitcher. You don't know what to expect. He's had some success against the Brewers, but, you might see him where he's got his stuff working. He's keeping the ball down in the zone. And then you're going to see other times where he just can't get that fastball across the plate and he can run into some trouble. So it'll be interesting to see now this 3rd time through. We've kind of seen both sides of Jaime here in his first 2 starts. It'll be interesting to see what we get tonight. All
right, let's look at the division. You and I are both Cubs fans. I some people would say closet Cubs fans, but I know you're not a closet Cubs. I mean, you put it out there, and I think I put it out there too. In fact, on your Facebook page, that's your picture with a Cubs hat. So there's no denying that you're a Cubs fan. But they're 26-22, 6 games behind the St. Louis Cardinals. Are they going to have to go get a little help if they want to win this division or be in a wild card hunt, or you think they can stay in it with what they have?
Yeah, I think they're going to need some help. And the question is for Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer, their general manager, is are they willing to give some things up now? Do they think they can make a run now, or do you kind of hold back and build for next year? I'm in the belief that you should, if you're going to build and you're going to make some trades, build it for next year, because I still think there are some holes that need to be filled. The Cubs' middle relief is still an issue. Their starting pitching is solid, but their middle relief is still an issue, and they still have trouble with their young hitters of being able to drive runs in with runners in scoring position. And, I think when I look at the Cubs, I look at them, and I've been trying to tell my friends who are Cubs fans back home, say, look, you've got to be patient with this team. They remind me a lot of what the Royals were a couple of years ago. You've got some promising talent. You've got the veteran pitchers. When you look at the Royals, they had a guy like James Shields leading that staff. Now you've got John Lester for the Cubs. But that Royals team, you'd look at them a couple months ago or a couple of years ago, and they'd go through the first couple of months and they'd be, 3 games above 500. They'd be right around that 500 mark and then have an 8-9 game losing streak. And that can happen to the Cubs this year. I don't know if they've got the horses to even make the wild card at this point. I mean, you look at San Francisco, Mets are playing pretty well. National League is pretty well stacked. There's no way they're going to catch the Cardinals unless the Cardinals have catastrophic injuries. I just don't see how an up-and-coming team is going to beat a veteran squad with so much pitching like the Cardinals have. So do the Cubs want to take that chance and try to build a winner and get into the wild card this year, or look for next year? And that's going to be a big question for their brass.
I happen to agree with you. I think, Bill, they've been patient in building what they have. Don't lose your patience, because there could be a pretty good thing if you start dealing away players to try and bring one or two guys in. You might shake things up too much and kind of head back to where you came from. I'd hate to see that happen. They've done it right so far. They're kind of, just take a look at the Houston Astros, what they've done. They're a year sooner or a year longer in that not rehab, but the redevelopment of their program, and look what they've done. I think the Cubs are headed down that road. They'll certainly have the Pittsburgh Pirates to contend with as well. Pirates, the hottest team in the division, 8-2 in their last 10 games. And they do have the veteran makeup. They may be the team that, in the end, may be pushing the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, if there's a team that's going to catch them, I mean, I don't think Cincinnati, and I think the Brewers might be too far back and just dealing with a lot of injuries that you guys have dealt with up there. But yeah, I mean, that's the team. They got off to somewhat of a slow start, but they're a team that I think is built for the marathon. That's built for that long run, and I think they will eventually. While they've caught the Cubs, I think they will pass the Cubs up, and they could make a run at the Cardinals. If the Cardinals slump at some point, is Lackey going to be able to pitch the way he's been pitching the entire year? Carlos Martinez, his emotions sometimes get in the way. This is his first year as a starter. What's he going to do in July? Is he going to hit kind of a wall there? How's Garcia going to progress? So, I mean, their starting pitching for the Cardinals right now is great, but can they sustain this over the long haul? And I think you've got a team like Pittsburgh that can, get right back in this thing and maybe be, a couple games out by August, and they could be looking at the division here. But I think the Pirates are at best probably a wild card team. I think when it's all said and done, I just think that the big key for me is just the fact that the Cardinals play in the Central, and they're going to play a lot of games against these teams, and I just think they've got an upper hand right now. They just have a good slot in this division at the right time where teams are kind of building, and the Cardinals are already established.
Yeah, the Cardinals certainly a great team, a great record already, and just looking through all of the standings this morning, Bill, they're 20-6 at Busch Stadium, and that 20-6 of the 6 losses is the fewest home losses in all of Major League Baseball. When they play at home, they're pretty good.
Yeah, they are good. I mean, they get that last chance to bat, and they're a very good late-inning team. And, they're getting some help in their bullpen. Matt Belisle has been a good pickup for this team. Trevor Rosenthal has turned into a very solid closer. And this team just doesn't quit. I mean, I haven't mentioned Jason Hayward, a right fielder that they picked up in a trade this offseason. I mean, he's a guy that, will provide some spark and a lot of hustle. Sometimes he, makes some plays out there in the field trying to do too much, but man, you love that aggressiveness and in his bat and his speed. And that's a guy that I think can really help that lineup out as well. So they're just, they're never out of games. It's just amazing to watch this team. They could be down 3 runs and they put a couple of guys on base, and they've got guys that can, string hits together. We saw them do it in the playoffs against the Dodgers, and they're just a fun team to watch. And I think, I think teams come into Busch Stadium a little nervous sometimes when, they have a 3-2 lead in the 9th, and, the Cardinals get that leadoff hitter on, and, some teams are thinking, hey, let's try to tie the game. Cardinals are thinking, hey, let's go out and win this thing in the bottom of the 9th. And I think that over the last few years puts pressure on the road teams here at Busch Stadium.
Yeah. Belief that they can do it certainly is always there for the Cardinals. It's Flyers against Garcia tonight. Brewers have not named their starting pitcher for tomorrow night's game. Cardinals go to Lance Lynn, and then it's Jimmy Nelson and John Lackey in the finale on Wednesday afternoon. Bill Pollock from MissouriNet.com and the Missouri Radio Network, thank you for your insights on the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Always great to join you and talk baseball.
All right, now I'm Bill Scott from the Wisconsin Radio Network.